Hello again, everyone. Varel here, Float out of Portland. Welcome back to our frequently asked question mini-series. Question number 15, what happens if minor roof issues are ignored? Well, let's define minor roof issue. So minor roof issue could be maintenance, could be cleaning your gutters, could be natural aging, could be deferred maintenance, could be a small puncture in a membrane. It could be wavy decking or plywood in your decking. As you're looking in the roof, you can almost see the rafter bays. Um, what about a musty smell? What about a small ring on the ceiling? What about lifted shingles? What about a cracked hip and ridge cap shingle, right? There's a ton of these small minor issues. They're easy to look away from, but a deep dive in the anecdotal story realm is that minor roof issues become bigger roof issues, and minor roof issues are a sign of bigger roof issues. We didn't even cover potentially like an exposed fastener. What about bad workmanship? What about, and bad workmanship will not show itself always immediately. And you may say, well, the rest of the roof looks pretty good, but there's this one rake where they didn't cut it nice and clean, or I can tell that there's something going on with maybe a bundle of shingles, right? It doesn't always show itself as a single place of origin, but if there's one issue, then sometimes more than not, there are other issues to consider. So a lot of these smaller issues will basically are can also be an indication of how the property owner's risk tolerance and maintenance perspective, like how they take care of their vehicle. Do they keep putting that oil change off? Do they continuously stay on top of it? Do they use good oil? Do they use the basic high mile every time? Are they going synthetic? How frequently do they get the air filter done? How well do they rotate their tires? All these different little things. How you do anything is how you do everything. And so if you're considering your roof and you're like, well, my dad or mom gave me this house 2 decades ago, I feel like I should still be able to get 5 or 10 years out of it, but you don't take care of it, you could be in for a need to have a targeted repair. You may need to have a full replacement even sooner than someone who would have taken care of their roof from the get-go. And maintenance is not the only reason why there are small issues that can grow, but let's say, for instance, you get a new roof and a steep slope, okay? And around the penetrations, let's just say REOs, your box fence at the top, you don't get a max flow system, you haven't optimized. You go with a basic system, but they have left their exposed fasteners unsealed, or they didn't use a neoprene screw or a grommeted nail. It's likely then, if they've missed that, what else have they missed? And it just goes to back to having pride in your work, right? At Flow, at least, we are trying to create something ideally to withstand the test of time. And in order to do that, we take an every nail counts approach in how we train and how we communicate and how we hold each other accountable on the team, as well as how we vet new team members. It's really the foundation of building something that lasts, is having absurdly unreasonable standards from the beginning. And I understand that not everyone has the same level of fortitude or grit to be able to hold those standards, which is why you need to have someone at the top relatively strong in their opinions and rigid in their standards to make sure that you customers are getting the best product possible. And I don't think a lot of the industry sees it the same way we do. I think a lot of people in the industry are in it just for a paycheck. And for 8 years, I mean, I've put everything I've ever earned back into Flow to build the opportunity to potentially have a future where Flow can exist in more places than just Portland. And that only happens by establishing the highest standards possible in every way that we flow. So that way I know clients outside of the Portland area, outside of even the Oregon, Washington area, potentially, will have that opportunity one day to experience a flowing project where things have been measured twice, cut once. Their T's and the I's have been dotted and crossed. And you cannot accept minor roof issues. You can't accept 98%. You have to go to 99.9. And I think anyone in construction would tell you that 100% is unreasonable. I set the expectation that when our crews do our cleanup, they're going to get you to 97%, which is pretty spick and span. They're going to clean your gutters. Everything's going to be golden. But a project manager will be the one who helps try to get things to 99 for the magnet sweep and the small debris cleanup. We can get even better too if it's a situation where we can dump a trailer right underneath your garage. But unless it's 3 or 4 stories and we can get the chutes up there, then we're going to have debris fall down into the trailer. So minor roof issues not only is a workmanship or maintenance related issue, but a homeowner concern if it's on the residential side. Even on the commercial side, the frequency of foot traffic on the roof can play a factor. Do you put Christmas lights up every Thanksgiving or so? Do you have RTUs on the roof where you have other trades walking around? A small issue may be a foot scuffing a shingle or an open seam or a dropped tool, but that small issue may not show itself for years, right? We've had roofs on 2 layers where you've had a penetration failure and then a repair on multiple layers, not show a leak, because maybe that first roof was actually okay, and then someone did a layover, and then that second roof was not okay. Well, because of the water intrusion between the 2 layers, there was a humidity effect that then created delamination underneath the first layer. It was strange, and rot around the penetration because that second layer was no good. And it distributed in a classic, like almost a 45 to 60 degree band down the roof, where penetration allowed the water to like spread as it went down the roof, which is why you have a stagger in your first nail. So if you're ever wondering like why you have the nail go pop, 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 right? You're putting it about 12 inches away from that first nail, because that's where between the top row of shingles at this next stagger is about 6 inches away. And so water doesn't divert down above that nail. So it's important that you have your annual inspections done, at least in Oregon. We always say September, October, so that way you're good for the wintertime. And we can certify a roof. A roofer should be able to certify a roof or call out anything that needs to be done to get it to be certified, or address issues before they happen, such that you can have yourself a nice, peaceful winter where the rain on the roof is what puts you to sleep, and protects the fam. And so these minor roof issues, though, can, if they're not caught early, can create a lot of rot, can cause structural issues, on the tile side of I've seen a lot of HOA and multifamily with tile. There's obviously some residential as well. You're talking about, I'd say 600 to 800, depending on the tile, pounds per square. And so the truss is going to be beefed up to a 6 or an 8 or a 10, a 2x, to structurally support that much weight. But if you're not properly maintaining those systems and they go unchecked, or you have a cracked tile somewhere or a cracked hip and ridge, I'll say that at least on the tile side, we've seen a lot more targeted repairs requests because no one's really trying to, that system should last 50 plus years. So if a building's in the 90s and it's supposed to be 50 plus, then most people are not interested. They want to just do a targeted repair, which is fine. But again, stay on top of those issues before they arise. What's the flashing like underneath that tile, right? Was it done with lead? What are the kickouts? Is there valley metal? Typically the underlayments won't last as long. From what we've seen, they're using a 30-pound felt underneath those old tiles. That has an expiration date far sooner than the tiles themselves. So minor issues could be having additional layers, and in having additional layers, it's like putting blankets on in the summertime. You're not addressing the root cause of what the issue could be, which is generally going to be ventilation related. While, yes, you're saving on disposal and material by just adding additional layers. We've seen up to 5 layers. There's some roofers that say, I've seen 20. We've seen 5 in Portland. It was like almost 3 inches of roofing. It was pretty thick. Bottom layer cedar plus 4 asphalt. You know what they don't do on each of those layers? It drives us crazy. But why would you? There's no underlayment, right? So between those 5 layers, no ventilation is getting addressed. And so in northeast, southeast, and parts of Vancouver, you'll see 3 layers fairly common, 4 layers relatively uncommon, 2 layers probably the most common. And then you're hoping for 1. During the inspection process, you want your property owners to only have 1 layer so they can enjoy the smooth, cost-effective install with no surprises. One of the other issues with multiple layers is the structural component of having that much weight on a 2x4 over the decades. And so what'll happen when you're not addressing the ventilation detail and you're just slapping layers on, it gets a little toasty up in there. So then in the summertime, let's just say, for instance, they at least have some exhaust, but you're never addressing intake because they never address soffit, bird blocking. They never added any smart intake because they didn't exist 60 years ago. So what'll happen is almost called like a leaching effect. I think formally we've defined it as like a bleeding effect, where the truss will have the pitch sapped out of it, and it's the blood of the wood, right? And so you'll look up in your trusses, and you see it in new construction even more, which is wild. So you'll see a 90s or early 2000s house having this golden amber beading along the truss, which is an indicator that it's getting too hot in the attic space, regardless if the ventilation is even at a code, is at code. And that pitching effect, or that bleeding, the golden amber is kind of pretty, is an indicator that the attic space is too hot. And you'll for sure see this on older buildings, right, that have a true 2x4 truss. It's not like a 1 3/4 by 3 1/2 or whatever those new 2x4s are these days. So that bleeding effect is reducing the tensile strength of the wood itself and relates to poor ventilation, which is an indicator of premature aging. So when we're looking at your roof holistically, again, from seeing the roofs inside out, you put your hand on the trusses, you're climbing up into the attic. Oh, look at this. Step number 1, right? Well, you can smell it, then you can see it, and you're looking in for the light at the attic space, and you're looking at the R value. You're checking the decking. You can look at the penetrations. You can look at the chimney or the skylight tunnels, and as a whole, you're kind of grading that roof without even being on top, right? We like to start our inspections from the inside and then work to the outside, just so we can get that out of the way. And as a part of a thorough inspection, and for you, the investor of the capital improvement, whoever's not going in your attic space doesn't know shit about your roof. Again, those are top-down roofers, and just because they pop their head in the attic doesn't necessarily mean they know everything about what they need to see. So, at a minimum, you want to check for your plywood. We'll want to check for your layers, right, from the inside. But realistically, what is that ventilation doing? How's that air flowing? Okay. So not every attic space, not every roof is built equal, but you can definitely get a lot more information based on that. And then when you go outside, you're looking at the bird blocking around in the soffits, taking a look, is it covered, is it open? Are we going to need 3/4 inch nails, etc. All the different inventories that are required. And it may be a minor issue, okay, but what that also leads to, say if you don't even have multiple layers, but you have a 90s house, early 2000s single layer with plywood. Let's just give it an architectural shingle. It doesn't even need to be 3-tap, okay? It's got a decent shingle. It's probably builder grade. It's only going to last 20-25 years at the highest end. Let's just say it's a minor issue. The roof is not leaking, but when you step out and you can see the bones of the roof, you're looking up it and you can see the studs 24 on center, and the sheet of plywood is kind of bowing between the studs. That's an indicator of ventilation issue. That is not necessarily a roof leak, okay? We call it swelling. So there is something in the attic space. More than likely, it's a humidity factor. Again, bad ventilation. That'll create that swelling effect on the plywood decking that allows the plywood to swell. And then when you go to replace that roof, you're looking down at it and it kind of looks like it's potato chips, right? It could be curling, the edges could be up or down, the between the trusses is a little saggy. Not ideal. Okay. There's a roof we did recently for a buddy in Vancouver that had this exact same effect. Now, he had 2 layers, so it contributed to the swelling. He had like 40 plus sheets of plywood that we wanted to address. And I'm all for like trying to save people money. So I'm like, hey, do you want to address this? Do you want to address this? Do you want to address? We should be addressing this. But, fortunately, he was a commercial project manager too. So like he understood like this is what needs to be done. Plus, it's his house and he just had a new baby. Why would you put all that into a new roof and not do it right? So, as a directory.com contractor, as an installer, as a roofing company listed at directory.com, we're bound by insurance, the CCB, our own standards, the manufacturer standards, and directory.com with Dimitri Lipinski and Roofing Insights, with the expectation that the client is going to be given a professionalized experience as well as an industry or above industry standard using what we use NRCA, the Roofing Association across the states, as a foundation for the standards of how a roof should be installed. And that's across the industry. The NRCA install manual is industry standard. There's some other programs like Fortified Roof that will help folks get a roof that is like above and beyond, but it depends on where you're at regionally. If you need a fortified roof is going to be way more buttoned down. Hopefully it's a little more wind tight. They tape the seams of the decking. They do some above and beyond detail on the roof to make it better wind protected. But the best investment across the states is metal. So why is, you're going to pay more for asphalt. You could pay half the cost of a metal roof for a fortified roof. So that brings the investment to a 2x, but you're going to get a roof that lasts 3 times as much. Everyone should be considering going metal. And so these small issues, a lot of them kind of fall back on workmanship and ventilation. And I consider ventilation a workmanship related issue. So if I look at a roof, if we're going in, it's on its second roof, or I look at it, it's even coming from new con, or if it's custom house and the builder didn't even look at ventilation properly because he's trying to be cheap, he's trying to save on money, he doesn't want to spend on the ridge vent or smart intakes, right? He doesn't want to balance things, he doesn't know how to do math. Guarantee he knows how to do math if he can build a house. So why isn't he doing the ventilation properly? So it's up to you homeowners to understand that what the roof is a system of components. It's not just a shingle. This is not a top-down trade. It's very much inside out. So I'm going to preach this. I'm going to hit on this in every point I possibly can. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. If you need to schedule something, just have us take a look at it. Let us know. All right, we'll move on to the next one. Are roof inspections only necessary when there is a problem? All right, cheers.